moment for Halifax Rugby League.
Austin is through and Warrington dominating. Great try for the Robins. Huddersfield Giants take the points home. It's Vincent! It's a poor lad. That is one sensational try.
Look out with a drop goal. Leeds gather round in jubilation.
It's hit the post. It's Wellesby. Wellesby might have got the try. St Helens are champions once again.
Hello and welcome to the Last Tackle, Betfred's Rugby League show. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by a legend of the game, Jamie Peacock, and one of the journalists that cover sport with such passion, Gareth Walker. And it's Gareth we're going to start with because there's some breaking news, nothing confirmed, but it looks like we may have a decision on the World Cup.
Yeah, we understand that the World Cup will be postponed on Wednesday. There's a meeting of the World Cup board late on Wednesday afternoon. I expect some kind of announcement after that, and that the tournament will be pushed back now to 2022 and hopefully goes ahead with a full strength competition and everybody taking part now.
We've got to stress, this news is not confirmed, but this is what we're hearing, that the World Cup has been postponed until 2022. Well, I suppose the good news, at least it's postponed and not cancelled.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, John Dutton, the tournament organiser, and it's hard not to feel sorry for John and all his team, really.
He's worked his socks off, hasn't
Absolutely, yeah. The whole team, they had this fantastically well-organised, commercially successful, resourced World Cup set up for this year, and obstacles have been put in the way. That means now it looks like postponement's going to be the best way forward. But as you mentioned, that cancellation thing was always hanging over it. But he always said that nobody wanted that, but it was always in the background, and at least we're still going to have a tournament organised by the same team, and hopefully it'll be a fantastic event next year now.
John Dutton and his team have grafted their nuts off, haven't they? I mean, they've done some fantastic PR around this. They've done loads of work on the public health aspect as well to try and get Australia and New Zealand over here. At least, you know, we're going to have a World Cup, but I feel so sorry for him.
Yeah, I do. I've worked with John Dutton before, before he was organising the World Cup. Very good operator, very good at what he does, and I think the team have been outstanding, and you really felt that this was going to be the biggest Rugby League World Cup of all time, regardless of what's gone on the last kind of 18 months. For me, it's disappointing. I think the opportunity was now. I think the game needed something like this at the end of the year to look forward to and then springboard into 2022, which hopefully then we were well and truly past COVID in the beginning of 2022 Super League season, but now we're going to have to stretch it out for another period. And just for me, I just think it just stinks a little bit about why it's not going ahead. That it's been dressed up as in player welfare, and we know the protocols that the Rugby League World Cup have put in place. We've seen lots of other sports have the ability to allow their players and their welfare to participate.
Well, look at the Olympics.
The Olympics, for example, right? Rugby Union in the autumn here, going ahead with the Wallabies. I just think that the way that that's been dressed up doesn't sit right with me going forward.
It's the NRL calling the shots, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah, without a doubt. It's just been proven that they're going to call the shots, and it's disappointing within a sport that the world stage should be the most important stage, and that should take precedent over anything else. But unfortunately, in Rugby League, that's not the case.
Because as a player, and well, I bet you'd love to do it now, you'd do anything to pull on your country's shirt, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it was the ultimate for me playing for England in the Northern Hemisphere. And I think you see that as well in the Southern Hemisphere. I know they've got the state of origin, but there's been a vast wave of players who want to come over here, want to play in the World Cup, want to represent Australia, New Zealand, Tonga, Samoa, Fiji. And I think it's just disappointing for them. I do have every faith, though, on a positive note, that we're going to absolutely smash it next year in 2022, and we'll have an amazing World Cup. And if the same team are organising, if we've got the same government funding, but I think we've missed an opportunity, and I think it's a disappointing how the world's viewed Rugby League, because they've really viewed it that the NRL runs the game, and it's not the world game running it.
I think what's really sad as well, JP, I mean, I mentioned the Olympics. Well, the Olympics is going to inspire loads of kids at the moment, take up BMXing, gymnastics, sailing, whatever. We've just got a really good silver, the 800 metres on the track. The Olympics inspires the next generation. I was really hoping this World Cup was going to inspire the next generation. All right, if we're right and it is delayed by a year, it's still disappointing now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hugely disappointing, and I think these showpiece events do provide that inspiration for young children who aren't necessarily associated with that sport. So I can remember watching the Olympics and wanting to be a 400-metre runner, after watching our Great Britain runners.
I've seen that. There was no chance.
Yeah, no chance of that. But I think as well, if you think of the last 18 months in this country, the one thing that's been taken away from youngsters up and down the country is sport, right? And the ability to go out and take sport. Well-being, right, is a bigger challenge I believe, for our children than it is for the players coming over here in the World Cup. And we would have that ability to inspire them. I would have had the best players on our show, like Sir James Tedesco. I think he'd have inspired a generation of young just children to come and play Rugby League and wonder what that's about. We had the full attention of the BBC as well to broadcast the sport. So I think it'd have been amazing for that. But I'm just pleased it is going ahead in 2022. But for me, the time was now.
Yeah, and look, we've said this so many times, the beauty of this World Cup is that in parallel, we had the wheelchair rugby and the women's games. It's a blow for them as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and they shouldn't be forgotten. And, as Jamie's mentioned, I think some of the things that have gone on in Australia during this whole scenario have been disrespectful towards the people over here. The 4-minute warning to announce it. And the latest one was the women's competition over there, where they've just decided they're going to move their women's competition to October and November and take out all the best players from the Southern Hemisphere for what would have been the World Cup over here. So they definitely need to be considered, because that was a huge factor, having these 3 concurrent tournaments, offering opportunities to women and wheelchair players around the world as well. And hopefully that's all back in place, because that's definitely a key part of this tournament.
Yeah, I just love that part of it within our sport, just how connected it feels now. With the women's and the wheelchairs, whenever I'm at an event with the rhinos, the women's there and the wheelchair, and I just think that's where we need to go as a society, to be that all-inclusiveness. And I just think the World Cup this year would have nailed it, absolutely nailed it. And I just hope next year we still have that ability to do it, to showcase a World Cup and include everybody in that.
Well, and suppose we're disappointed, won't we? I mean, I've hardly seen my brother, and we said, right, we'll go to a few World Cup games.
Yeah, they will. There's no doubt supporters will be disappointed. I know loads of people who go, do you know what, I'm going to that, I'm going to watch a rugby game.
We're all hoping by October, November that we would have, a lot more normal than it is now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think people would have seen that as a great thing to come out of the last kind of 6-9 months. Let's go watch a Rugby League game. Let's go watch a World Cup game with someone I've not seen for like 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 months.
And Gareth, there's a lot of detail that needs sorting out. I must stress, not confirmed, this is hearing that it's postponed to 2022. There's going to be a board meeting on Wednesday. But I presume there's quite a few logistic things to sort out, isn't there? Because obviously there is a football World Cup that starts in December. There's
all manner of things, yeah. And John Dutton made that clear all the way through when you were hearing things from down under, just postpone it till next year. It was never that simple, was it? They've got 20-odd venues that they'll now have to set new dates for. That broadcast agreement with the BBC that Jamie mentioned, unprecedented coverage of it, well, that is going to be affected by the Football World Cup, because there's a 10-day overlap if we just move the dates forward 12 months. So all that logistical thing will have to come into play. And John Dutton and his team, who've done such a great job, they've got another big job on their hands now to deliver the same kind of tournament next year, because it is not just a case of let's just push it to 2022.
I think as well, if you look at Rugby League, the level of problem at Rugby League is it's not played in enough countries, right? And the way you grow the sport is to have a World Cup where there's no other sports overlapping interest with that. We had that this year. And the one thing you can say I think about Rugby League, a positive, is when you take someone to watch who's never seen it before, they are blown away by the sport, aren't they? They're blown away by how fast it is, how physical, how athletic people are, the atmosphere, the friendly atmosphere in the sport. And we're going to miss that opportunity. We're going to go into battle against other sports, against giants of sport in the world, and that's a big opportunity we're missing as well.
No, look, well said. I think what you said about the children earlier on, that's spot on.
Yeah.
Their well-being has really been affected this year.
Yeah, 100% it has. I work in schools. I can speak firsthand from this with dealing with hundreds and thousands of different children. And the one thing comes over and over again is not that ability. It's that ability not to go out and do physical sports that they've missed out on for maybe 18 months. And I think there's nothing better to inspire a child to go out and play than to watch the best in the world do it physically right in front of you. More than 5 meters away from you. There's nothing better than that.
So we're expecting this news to be confirmed on Wednesday that the Rugby League World Cup has been postponed until 2022. And we said it early on, John Dutton and his team have worked tirelessly over the last few years as well. But at least it's going to be on next year. So the good news, it's going to be on next year. News off the pitch as well. There was a meeting last week between the RFL, the Super League and clubs to discuss future direction. There's so much going on off the field for you lot to report on at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's realignment of the RFL and Super League or potential new structures. News emerged that there's this proposal that maybe next year we could have 14 Super League clubs that then goes down to 2 divisions of 10, a Super League 1 and 2. It feels a little bit like we're going round in circles again, changing the structure yet again. And for me, if they are going to change the structure, they need to get things in place like what is the policy for youth development, what is the academy reserve system going to be. It can't just be we're going to go there and move the top flight to 10 teams and everything's going to be magic, because I don't think it's going to work that way. It needs to be built around some real solid foundations, and if we do change as a sport, then we do something that we're going to stick with, and it's got a 10-year plan, not just a 12 or 2-year plan to get another TV deal, because it's going to be a massive move if the sport does it again.
Yeah, some positive quotes from the meeting. The RFL Chief Executive Ralph Rimmer said the collective approach has been positive and constructive. There will be further consultation with the clubs in the coming days. The Super League Europe interim chairman Ken Davey adds the next 2 years are absolutely vital for the sport. We need to continue to make rugby league an attractive sport to supporters, broadcasters, viewers and commercial partners. Ultimately, this sport is about the players on the pitch and the excitement and drama they create. And the Super League and RFL will make a further announcement as consultations with club progress.
I just think the last bit of that statement, that's never been a problem, right? What the players deliver on the pitch and on the games. I just think the structure's the most important thing there that we need to sort out. One of the keys for me, I just think scarcity creates demand. I think we have too many games, and I think when we have I know what it was like before COVID, and we had 2 months off, just 2 months off watching rugby league, and I'm like, I want to watch a rugby game, I want to watch a rugby game. Imagine if you had like 5 months of that where we were ready to do that, and you only had the games on a couple to watch at the weekend. I just think a bit more of that could be better for the game overall. Than I think there's a few too many. I know we had the moniker, every second counts. You can't do that, but I just think for me there's a few too many games out there at the moment that are perhaps meaningless in the long term of things.
So a long-term plan.
Yeah, long-term. It's got to be a long-term plan, and I think what's key as well is which part of is the RFL or Super League is developing the amateur game. Are we getting into schools, and can we get the base of players who are aged 5, 6, 7, 8.
A proper pathway.
Yeah, it just needs to increase that. Rugby Union, through stealth, have infiltrated the North, whether we like it or not, and they're in all the schools. And it's a really smart policy. Well, I believe that should be the RFL's main remit, is deliver more numbers at grassroots level. That's what they have to do, the RFL.
Continuing talking things off the field, Kevin Sinfield left Leeds on Sunday as a director of rugby. Well, he's a good mate of yours.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a huge blow for the game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big blow for the game. Out of all the players who played the game in the last 30 years, you would say Kev is absolutely a household name, right? And we don't have enough household names. And the image Kev has as well is a great image to portray about rugby league. He's such a good role model.
What he did for Rob Burrow.
For Rob Burrows, yeah. But even before that took place, I think we all, his values as a person, I think are values that people want to associate with. And I think it's great for our sport that we have someone like him who was the figurehead of it, and to lose him is a big blow for the Rhinos, first of all, but also for the sport as well, that we've not been able to keep hold of somebody like himself.
He's not closed the door on rugby league, though.
No, he will never. Yeah, I don't think he'll ever close the door on rugby league. But I know how good an operator Kev is, and I'd be surprised if Rugby Union want to let him go again.
Yeah, he's going to Leicester Tigers now. He took the director of rugby job 3 years ago, didn't he? July 2018. And let's be honest, Leeds were in a bit of chaos then, weren't they? So
yeah.
He's done a good job, and look at the youngsters coming through.
Yeah, and I think
he's brought stability.
Yeah, two things he's brought, I think, out of his legacy would be stability for sure. I feel like the club is a lot more stable place, but I think that emphasis on signing great young talent, not just good or average young talent. And if you look at the Leeds team, you'd say over the next 2 or 3 years, the centre of that team is going to be British and English. You know, look at players like Aaron Newman, Mikolaj Alexi, Ash Handley, and there's a number of other players just underneath them as well. And I think that's been the key around Kev, bringing in some structures and processes, some consistency, and he'll bring that in bucket loads. And he's a great innovator as well as Kev. He'll always find a way to accomplish something.
It's a blow for sport, isn't it? And a blow for Leeds.
It is, yeah. I mean, when you talk in media terms, he's the one guy who has that cut through, really, because of when he came second in the Sports Personality of the Year, because of everything that he did for Rob Burrow, and he was on BBC Breakfast every morning for a week, wasn't he? So when I mention him to my desk at the Mirror, it almost doesn't matter what's going on. They're interested because it's Kevin Sinfield and because they understand the values that Jamie talked about there and what he represents off the field. And he can back it up with having led his club to 7 Super League titles as well, wouldn't he? So, you know, he had everything in terms of media profile that we'd be looking for in people. So that's definitely a shame. It's going to be a shame for Leeds. You know, the sport is bigger than any individual, but I think if one individual was to leave, most people would have hoped it wouldn't be Kevin Sinfield.
Let's talk about some games now. The Catalan, well, quite incredible. 12 on the bounce now, and Sam Tompkins is playing superb as well. How good are the Catalans at the moment?
Yeah, well, the record speaks for themselves at the moment. I just think they've got good players, great players that are actually playing well in key positions, I think, at the moment. You know, Sam Tompkins, James Maloney. And I think it's credit to Steve McNamara as well, because he's been given time, and I think he's built a squad up with some great players in there, but they understand what he wants from them. And from my time working with Steve McNamara, I always thought he was an exceptional coach, working with him with England, and I think he's showing it now with Catalans, and I think it's great for the game. We've got a team out of France, Catalans playing so well.
Can they win it?
You know what?
Because we always used to say, the Catalans are too inconsistent. Well, they've just won 12 on the bounce.
The key with this, I think, is I don't think it's your James Maloney or Sam Tompkins. They're going to play well in the playoff games, right? It's the players in and around them who are, you know, you're probably 7s out of 10 players. Can they cope with the playoffs? Can they cope with the intensity of a grand final? And if they can, then they can win it. And if they can't, they'll probably do a Salford, get to the grand final and lose, or like a Castleford, get to a grand final and lose. I think it's on Steve McNamara's ability to get those players to believe that they can win a grand final and just understand it's just a normal game. And if they can do that, then I think they've got every chance of winning it. And it'd be great to see a different name on the trophy.
And interestingly, they're at St Helens this weekend, and they've got St Helens at Magic. So playing Saints twice in a month.
And they're 2 fantastic games to look forward to, aren't they? We've talked a lot about off-the-field stuff today, haven't we? But when it comes back round to the big games in Super League, the players do deliver, and they're mouth-watering matches, aren't they? This weekend, I think that's going to be fantastic, because Saints, you know, they haven't had that, and they've had a break, haven't they, with COVID as well, but they haven't had that post-cup final drop-off that sometimes we see, so they're playing well. Catalans, 12 on a bounce. Star players in both teams, that's a terrific game to look forward to.
And you were at Hull versus Saints last night, Jack Wellsby hat-trick. And how does James Roby do it? Is he 25? He's 35 in theory, isn't he?
We get the press conference after the game every week with coaches, obviously, and it's hard to find ways to ask Christian Wolff how good James Roby is, and Jack Wellsby the same. You know, how does he keep turning up and contributing in different positions? Wherever you throw Jack Wellsby, he's having an input into that team, isn't he? And Christian Wolff's talking about it every week. But you know, they're at opposite ends of the age spectrum, but they kind of epitomise what St Helens are all about. They both come through their own system. They probably both could have, even at this stage, Jack Wellsby probably had offers to go somewhere else, staying with Saints. And they're building their team around, you know, there's some fantastic players there, isn't there? And they're 2 of the best of them.
And we mentioned stability at Leeds. A bit more stability for Saints with Christian Wolff extending his contract.
Yeah, and I don't think they could have done anything else there, especially when he's guided them to that first Challenge Cup in 13 years, played well. The consistency is remarkable now, isn't it? If you go back, I think it's 2018, the first year under Justin Hulbert when they really dominated. But we're now into a 4th season of them winning almost every week. And that's a fantastic achievement for them as a club and for Christian Wolff as a coach to have carried on what Justin Hulbert did.
Let's just rewind to Sunday night. Leeds 26, Warrington 27.
Yeah, hell of a game, right? It was a great game, a great advert for Super League. I know we talk about there's too many games. Well, I watch one of them every single day of the week if it's as good as that. I think, what do you want from your major signing when he comes in? Well, you want him to clinch the game in the death, don't you? That's why you pay the big money for George Williams. I just think for me, as a involved in the Leeds Rhinos, I think Leeds Rhinos have shown some great signs over the last few weeks. That if they can make the playoffs, they'll challenge and can beat any other team on the day. And I think that's what the playoffs needs, is a team like Leeds to come in the fifth kind of spot, the lowest down position, and shake things up a little bit and make those other teams above them look down and think, you know what, you can get beat by these.
I was going to ask you, where do you think Leeds are at then? Because they beat Wigan midweek, didn't they?
Yeah, they're obviously. I think the way they're playing, they can beat any of the teams in the competition. You've seen, they've played Catalans twice recently and been winning in those games. And I think they're more than capable of shaking it up if they just need to get that win ratio up so they can get into the playoffs. And I think that's the big question mark, is can they do enough in the regular season to get in the playoffs? I think if they get in the playoffs, fully fit squad, they'll make a dent in that playoff.
Sorry, they beat Hull again before, didn't they?
Yeah, which is a great win for them.
Warrington had beat Wigan again before.
Yeah,
There's so many games, isn't there? You lose track.
Yeah, there is. They're coming thick and fast with it. But yeah, I think they've been great. And just speaking about, I think for me, just some positives out of the game, out of the season, would be Jack Wellesby's one of them. I just love watching him play. I really like watching Mikolaj Oleksy play. I think he's another player who's just that little bit further in his career, but really progressed. And another one coming up at the moment, Will Price. For Huddersfield, I think there's some good young talent coming through within the game, even though we could do with more of it at the grassroots.
And just to turn that around a bit with the World Cup at the beginning, do you think those guys will benefit from another extra year? Particularly Wellesby and Oleksy would be in and around the squad.
It happened to the England football team, didn't it? There's quite a few in the England football team that possibly wouldn't have been there, like Saka, etc., because of a delay.
I think it'd be great though I think they could benefit from it, but I would like to see England play France or Wales or someone at the end of the year now. Let's get an international game
game going.
Yeah, let's get an international game in there. Sean Wayne will want them to get them together.
And if they're going to play...
Going back to our previous conversation, Sean right now would be gutted, won't he?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think he does need some games. But if we're going to play France, I think we've got to go to France. Yeah. I think especially Catalans are top of Super League, Toulouse are top of the Championship. I think too often in recent years we've not been there enough, and this is a great time for French Rugby League at the moment. Take a match down there, maybe even play them twice, once in Perpignan, once in Toulouse. I'm sure you get big crowds down there, and I think that could give us a bit of a lift, amid the disappointment of no World Cup.
I think it's a great idea as well, and particularly if fans can travel, for the restrictions keep lifting and whatever kind of traffic light system we've got going, that if fans from England can go out there, I think you'll see people there for Perpignan or Toulouse for the weekend. I think it's a great shout.
Let's just talk Wigan very quickly. Beat Lee on Sunday and then lost to Warrington on the Wednesday, 21-8. Where are Wigan at the moment, do you think?
I think they will improve, and they've been missing some players, and the key one's John Bateman, isn't he? He's come back in now, and I think he's that kind of player that will lift others around him. So as he comes back into the team, they get a couple of other bodies back. They had that run of 5 straight defeats, and you looked at them, their attack wasn't working. You wonder whether they could have an impact on the playoffs. But they might not be dissimilar to Leeds, that they might end up in the bottom half of that top 5. But if Bateman's playing and they've got a fully fit squad and Hastings is firing, they can't be underestimated either for me, not yet.
And the team you saw last night, Hull, as you put in your match report, second home defeat in 5 days and not beating anyone in the top 6.
Yeah, that's hanging over them at the moment. Everyone's started to mention that stat a bit more, haven't they? I mean, I thought in patches last night Hull had improved on the previous game against Leeds, and Brett Hodgson made quite a lot of that in the press conference after the game. They've got their key man, haven't they, Jake Connor, to come back in, and they're certainly missing his creativity. I think they've got a bit more work to do than either Leeds or Wigan if they're going to have an impact.
So, anyone going to affect the top 6 now, do you think, for the playoffs?
Do you know what? Yeah,
I mean, that was a big defeat for Castleford last night, wasn't it? I think they're struggling.
I think Hull are. I think Hull are a better side than Hull this year. I just think some of the wins they've had against
could get in the playoffs,
better opposition. Yeah, I think really the playoffs is down to, obviously you've got your Wigan Saints, Catalans, Warrington, then it's Leeds, Hull, and I think Leeds or Hull would do more damage in there than Hull would at the moment, looking at that run of form that they can't beat the top 6 side. But I do think we're going to get an exciting playoff series, because I think there's this between the top 5 sides.
And let's be honest, after all, we need an exciting playoffs as well, don't we?
Yeah. It'd be great to get a really good playoff series with packed out. Let's sell it out. That should be the aim, of the RFL and the clubs now. Okay, we've no World Cup, right? Let's throw everything we've got into having 4.
Got Magic Weekend as well. That should be good.
Weekend. Let's finish the season as strong as we possibly can. Leave some good memories with the fans. Okay, and then make them. Well, let's have the England-France twice in France.
Yeah. Well, let's just leave the modern day, and he's often in this studio, but we're featuring some of the greats of the game, and this week it is Paul Sculthorpe.
I got into rugby league as an 8-year-old. Obviously lived in Oldham. My old man played for Oldham, St Anne's and Shaw. We used to go watching him. But I was actually into football. Followed my eldest brother Lee. But then there was an advert in the local paper advertising for a new rugby team called Warrington Tigers. My younger brother Danny wanted to go along and train, and I got told you're going with him. And you know, from that hour, I remember kicking and screaming all the way there. I didn't want to play rugby. I wanted to be a footballer. And from that hour, you know, I knew it was the game for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I took to it pretty well, and you know, the rest is history. I signed for Warrington as a 14-year-old. Obviously, it was very different then. You know, you signed, but you know, that was then in the safe till you'd left school and then you could join. So I joined Warrington when I left school. You know, progressed through the academy, the A team, and the first team pretty quickly in that first year. But you know, Warrington was a great club. You know, I had offers from other clubs, but I knew Warrington was a club where you got your opportunity. And one thing I'd always done was back my own ability to once I got that opportunity to take it with both hands, and I think I did that at Warrington.
Sculthorpe, injects pace, goes through the gap. Lovely one. Support there from Knott. And Ian Knott is going to score here for Warrington. Beautiful swerve. This youngster is all talent. Yes, put it down to Paul Sculthorpe's brilliance.
I'd already broke into the Great Britain setup and playing with some of the best players in our game, and I think at the time Warrington's ambition probably didn't meet my own, and obviously with the financial restraints, we was never going to build a team to compete with the likes of Wigan and St Helens. I moved to St Helens in 1998 to play in big games, to play in grand finals, in Challenge Cup finals, and you know, I think I was certainly spoilt over the 10 years. The first one in 1999, the grand final against Bradford, is one that stands out because it was my first ever final. But I'd say that probably the highlight of my club career would be 2004, the Challenge Cup final against Wigan, and that was my first one as captain. So I'd grown up watching the Challenge Cup and watching the greats like Ellery Hanley and Cole lift that Challenge Cup, and you know, it was my turn.
Sculthorpe collects the trophy in his first season as a captain.
The one thing I've always tried to be throughout my career was consistent, and to be able to win the Man of Steel and to win it, you know, 2 years consecutive was massive. But I've always said it, you know, individual awards are fantastic, but you know, it's a team sport, and it's about, you know, winning things as a club and a team. I was made vice captain under Chris Joynt, and you know, Chris had a massive impact on me as a player, and as a leader as well. You know, I like the way that Chris Joynt, you know, captained, and you know, he always led example with his own performance, and I learned a lot from Chris. You know, that stood me in good stead to take over the captaincy in 2004, and I think to take the captaincy of such a big club, you know, like St Helens, you know, a club that demands success, a club that's going to always, you know, be in the big games and be on the biggest stage, was a massive honour for me, and something, you know, that I still say is one of, if not, you know, the highlight of my career.
Top player, top fella as well. He's often in the studio. What was he like to play against then, JP?
Just relentless, an exceptional play. You know, with the natural talent and ability to read a game, you know, high rugby IQ you'd get of a halfback, but just the toughness of a front row. And I think for that period, probably between 2000 and 2002, I don't think anyone in Super League has played consistently 10 out of 10 for those 2 seasons, you know, where he won Man of Steel. No one's been able to do that, reach those kind of heights with it, and then, you know, sadly with injury at the end. But I always remember wanting to play next to him with Great Britain. He's a player you wanted to play alongside.
And he's an absolute top fella as well. Let's talk about this week's fixtures very quickly. Leeds versus Cass.
yeah, Leeds are going to win that. I think it's
Look, Leeds have turned the corner, haven't they? And Cass are struggling for a bit of form.
yeah.
I mean, I know they've got a lot of players missing, Cass.
Yeah, I think Cass have got some players missing, but I wouldn't be surprised if a few reappear for Friday. And I think Darryl Powell's a smart coach. He'll probably target as this one that they can get a bit of emotional juice behind them after the Challenge Cup and get back and win a game again.
Wigan play Salford. We've got an absolute cracker on Saturday. St Helens versus Carlans.
Yeah, that's potentially the match of the season so far, isn't it, in Super League? Two informed teams, star players littered among both sides. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing that one.
Huddersfield versus Wakefield and Warrington versus Hull. Where are Warrington at? People were asking questions, weren't they? 'Cause obviously with Steve Price, we know he's departing. But it seems to have turned a corner.
Yeah, I mean, they were awful, weren't they? They've had some awful performances. Will we see another awful performance from them again this season? I think so, right?
Well, just beat Leeds and Wigan. So
yeah, but they're inconsistent, aren't they, along the way? For me, for Warrington, right, they're going to be in the playoffs. They've got lots of star players. Can all those star players come together and play to the potential in the playoffs? That's the question you've got to ask of Warrington. If they can do that, they can win the grand final. It could be their year, right? But if they can't, then they'll bomb out again.
Gents, I've really enjoyed your company, but before we finish, we've just got to touch on the top story. So there is going to be an RFL and World Cup board meeting on Wednesday, and we expect that the announcement is going to be that the World Cup has been postponed until 2022. That's what we're expecting.
Yeah, that's definitely what we're expecting. We expect to hear a few more details about it and where they're going. All I'd say is throughout all this, John Dutton has always made a big thing about being solutions focused, and when problems have come up, he wants to find a solution for it. So this is the biggest disappointment out of anything. This is the biggest problem. We all wish it was this year, but I know now that they'll already be thinking to next year, how can they make this tournament every bit as good as they want to? They're going to have issues to overcome that we've talked about, broadcasting, clashing with the Football World Cup, but I know that they'll be determined to make the best of it, so we've just got to try and get behind that now and back these people to deliver what we all want.
And you spoke very passionately. You're annoyed at basically the NRL, aren't you?
Yeah, I just think I think the opportunities now for the sport to grow it on the worldwide stage, and we've missed that opportunity because of some self-interest. For me, I want to look forward now. If that's going to be the case and the World Cup's going to be postponed, well, I've got every faith in John Dutton and his team that they're going to deliver a World Cup in 2022 that will have been better than the one would have had then. I think they'll have 12 months to get things right, and I think John Dutton and his team can go to bed tonight on Wednesday night if it gets postponed, knowing they have done absolutely everything to try and get this World Cup up and running. And I think we as stakeholders within the game have got a duty to try and make it as successful as possible in 2022.
Gents, really enjoyed your company, and whether you're going to a game or watching rugby league on the sofa this weekend, enjoy the action. And look out for that official announcement about the World Cup, which will take place on Wednesday. So look out for the official announcement on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. See you soon.